I want to begin by recalling the victims of 9/11. 18 years ago this morning, thousands of people were murdered in brutal acts of terror in the United States, including many Canadians. Today, as we prepare to exercise our democratic rights, we recognize and honor their lives. May their memories be a blessing to us all. Merci d'être ici avec nous
Thank
ce
you for
matin
being here
at
with
Rideau
us
Hall.
today at Rideau Hall.
Il y a quelques instants,
A few moments ago, I met with Her Excellency the Governor General, who accepted my request to dissolve Parliament. Canadians will go to the polls on October 21st.
In every election, as Canadians, we get to make an important choice about the future of our country. We get to decide what kind of future we want to build together. In 2015, after a decade of failed Conservative policy, Canada's economy was flat. Economic growth, job creation, wage growth, all were stalled, thanks to a Conservative government that believed cuts and austerity were the answers to everything. Les Canadiens
Canadians have chosen a new team that was ready to invest in the people and in their communities. A team that understood that even if we live in the best country in the world, it is always possible to do better. And even if there's still much to do, we've spent the last 4 years to improve things, and we have the report to prove it. Poverty has fallen. Joblessness rate is one of the lowest in the history of our country, and job creation is rising. And all this because our team have rejected austerity and cuts from the Harper years. Because in its place, we've decided to invest in the middle class and those working hard to join it.
We've put more money in people's pockets by cutting taxes for the middle class and raising them on the wealthiest 1%. We stopped sending child benefit checks to millionaires so we could send more to the single parent working 2 jobs and to the family of 5 that falls a bit short at the end of each month. We made the Canada Pension Plan stronger because in a country like ours, seniors shouldn't struggle to make ends meet. We renegotiated NAFTA, securing trade access to our largest and most important trading partner at a time of U.S. protectionism and unpredictability. And we're conserving more of our nature and ensuring that our air stays clean and our water stays safe, because we owe it to our kids and to ourselves to take care of our environment. These are things that are making a real difference in people's lives. And this fall, Canadians once again get to vote for the kind of Canada they want to live in. We've all got a choice to make. Keep moving forward and build on the progress we've made, or go back to the politics of the Harper years. Conservatives like to say they're for the people, but then they cut taxes for the wealthy and cut services for everybody else. Mais comme les Canadiens le savent,
but as Canadians know, it's not the right way to do things. It's not by cutting that we will get richer. This is why our government has chosen to make our country go forth. We've decided to invest in families, in workers, and in our communities. We've decided to trust Canadians. In the last 4 years, over 1 million of new jobs were created. We have negotiated new deals on health with the provinces and territories. We've introduced a new Canadian allocation for children that helps parents by giving them hundreds of dollars free from taxes every month. We've taken out 900,000 Canadians out of poverty, including 300,000 children. And under a Liberal government, Canada has continued to go forth.
At the end of the day, politics is about people. Maybe you're a recent grad or a new Canadian. Maybe you're raising your kids or living out your golden years in retirement. Whoever you are, you deserve a real plan for your future. We've done a lot together these past 4 years, but the truth is, we're just getting started. So Canadians have an important choice to make. Will we go back to the failed policies of the past, or will we continue to move forward? That's the choice. It's that clear, and it's that important. I'm for moving forward for everyone. Merci.
Good morning. Michelle Zilio with the Globe and Mail. Prime Minister, what is your government trying to hide by refusing to waive cabinet confidentiality so the RCMP can properly investigate the role your office plays in the SNC-Lavalin case?
We gave out the largest and most expansive waiver of cabinet confidence in Canada's history.
We've suspended the secret of cabinet in the most expensive way, in the most important way in the history of Canada.
So are you going to ask the Privy Council clerk to waive cabinet confidentiality?
We respect the decisions made by our professional public servants. We respect the decision made by the clerk. We respect
always the decisions made by our public officials, and we respect the clerk's decision.
With the Toronto Star, I'm curious as to, you come here today having 4 years after you took power saying Conservatives are not our enemies, they're our friends and neighbours, and yet your party is fiercely attacking the Conservatives, demonizing them. I'm wondering, what do you say to your children when you speak about Andrew Scheer?
As I've said many, many times, I do not engage in personal attacks, but I will be very, very sharp on distinctions around policy, on how one engages with Canadians and the vision one puts forward. That is something that Canadians deserve in an election, to see clear contrasts between a vision that is open, inclusive, and respectful of everyone's rights, and a perspective that says they're for the people, but then delivers cuts to services and cuts to taxes for the wealthy.
And just a follow.
Okay. Je serai toujours très clair.
I will always be very clear that I will not make any personal attacks, but I will be very, very pointed on the differences in terms of policies. Our visions for the country are very different between the liberal approach that is positive and inclusive and the conservative approach, which wants to go for cuts and austerity. And in this campaign, we will make it very clear for Canadians the choice that they have.
Just to follow up on SNC-Lavalin, you have said you take responsibility, yet you disagreed with the ethics report findings. You've got a McClellan report, but in all of this time, I don't think Canadians have heard you explain what you feel you personally did wrong. What were your mistakes in that affair? Could you explain to us what you feel where you went wrong?
My job as Prime Minister is to be there to stand up for and defend Canadians' jobs, whether it's communities right across the country or pensioners or families. I will always defend the public interest. I will always defend people's jobs. I've been unequivocal about that from the very beginning, and that's what I will continue to do.
No mistakes. No mistakes?
Good morning, Teresa Wright, the Canadian Press. You've triggered an election today and you're asking Canadians to vote for you. Perhaps you could tell Canadians why they should trust you to be returned to power when we still don't know all the details of the SNC-Lavalin affair, despite numerous attempts, and some of that has to do with committees with a Liberal majority blocking those details coming forward.
We made a commitment to Canadians to grow the economy for the middle class and for people working hard to join it. That was the heart of the promise we got elected on, and we have delivered on that by watching Canadians create well over 1 million jobs over the past 4 years, at the same time as 900,000 Canadians have been lifted out of poverty. Our commitment to invest in communities, our commitment to support and move forward on giving a real chance to Indigenous peoples to succeed by advancing reconciliation, to move forward on demonstrating that we understand that growing the economy and protecting the environment goes together every step of the way, and it's not a choice of either or anymore. These are the things that we committed to Canadians to do, and this is exactly what we've done over the past 4 years. We are the first to recognize there's an awful lot more to do, and I'm very much looking forward to getting out and talking with Canadians from coast to coast to coast over the coming weeks about our plans to continue building a better Canada as we all move forward.
Today is the 18th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. What would you say to those who might say that it could be seen as insensitive to be calling an election on this particular tragic anniversary?
As I said in my words in the beginning, the exercise of our fundamental democratic rights, the moment to engage in reflecting on how we move forward with a better future for everyone, is a deeply held value with which we celebrate the successes and the tragedies of the past. We remember all the families, all the individuals lost and the families affected by the terrible, terrible attacks of September 11th, 2001. And we move forward in pledging ourselves every day to a better, safer, more prosperous society for everyone. And that's what this election is all about.
Mr. Trudeau, you are really clear on the law on laicity in Quebec. You think it's a wrong law? It's an error. If you're back in power, will your government will contest it or go against it in the courts, or will put any opposition to it? Yes, of course. I'm totally against Bill 21, or. I think that in a free society, we shouldn't legislate or allow discrimination against anyone. I am very happy that Quebecers themselves are going against this law in courts. They are defending the Canadian Charter of Freedom and Rights, and we are following closely this situation, anything that is done, and we are looking at it attentively. But for now, we don't find that, or we find actually that it would be counterproductive for a federal government to interfere in this cause.
As I've said many times, I am deeply opposed to Bill 21 in Quebec. I don't think that in a free society we should be legitimizing or allowing discrimination against anyone. I'm very pleased that Quebecers themselves have chosen to contest this bill in court, to stand up and defend the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. I have been watching very closely the process and considering the federal potential actions. And at this time, I feel it would be counterproductive for the federal government to engage in this process.
Why would it be counterproductive? And is your decision definitive? You will not intervene at all? As I said, we're looking closely at this process, and for now, we don't find that it would be productive to commit. But we will continue to monitor closely this process, and we will make any decision in the course of this process.
As I said, we are following very carefully the process. At this time, we feel it would be counterproductive for the federal government to engage in the process with which Quebecers are underway, but we will continue to monitor closely and evaluate our position.
Good morning, Zian Lam with HuffPost Canada. Millennials make up the largest block of eligible voters in this election. How do you plan to try to regain young people's trust, specifically those who might be disappointed you promised to be different and you turned out to be just like every other politician?
I think Canadians of all ages, particularly millennials, have seen the transformation of our country over the past 4 years as we've both created economic growth and lifted people out of poverty, as we've moved forward on the most ambitious leadership ever seen by a Canadian government on protecting the environment, at the same time as we continue to prepare for future prosperity for families right across the country. These are the things that young Canadians expect, indeed that all Canadians expect. And I very much look forward to the coming weeks where we will be rolling out a very ambitious platform designed to help Canadians look towards the future with even more confidence than they already have in this extraordinary country.
Bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau.
Mr. Trudeau, can you elaborate, explain a bit what you are assessing as being counterproductive in committing into being involved in a debate on Bill 21 in Quebec, and you said that you will continue to monitor. What are you monitoring? What could make you change your mind on this debate? We understand very well that in a free society, we shouldn't be suspending fundamental rights. We shouldn't be allowing and legitimize discrimination based on religion or on something else. And that's why we are preoccupied, of course, by this bill. But as I said, Quebecers themselves are going in the courts against this bill. They are defending the Canadian Charter of Freedom and Rights. And as Quebecers, as Quebec and as the federal government, we are following this closely. And we are looking how and if the federal government need or should intervene. And it's my decision for now that I believe it would be counterproductive to be involved in the legal process at this point. Ultimately, would the question be sure, as Prime Minister of Canada, that this bill is opposed in every mean? And I just want to make sure on this. And I will go with my follow-up because you haven't answered my first question, but some people say it's a referendum question on climate. There seems to be two clans. One, the Conservatives, the other, you, NDP, the Greens, the Bloc. How do you hope to distinguish yourself? Don't you fear that this vote will be spread and it will be beneficial to the Conservatives? I think that Canadians understand very well that climatic change is a threat, a real threat, not only to our planet, to our community, but to our economy as well. And that's why we have a plan that has not only been concrete to better protect the environment than any other government in the history of our country, but at the same time prepares our families, our youth, our workers for a future in which new jobs will be related to a greener economy and a cleaner economy. We have an ambitious plan to protect the environment and to grow the economy. And that's what we've demonstrated in the last 4 years. I find it really sad that Conservatives still don't understand that climatic changes are a real threat to which we need to fight and combat. Again, the Conservative politicians across the country are spending money, public's money, not to help in the transformation, but to go against a plan that works. And we will continue to demonstrate by our actions and by our commitment that Canadians are expecting concrete leadership, a convinced government to act against climatic change is the only way to protect the future generations and to create the economy that is necessary for the future. We are going and following, monitoring closely everything that goes on in courts, and we will in our decisions to see if we will intervene or not, but I think it would be counterproductive to intervene at this point. On the same theme, you've said important words. For now, you said I will not make that decision. Will it change if you're a minority or in a majority situation? We will always do what's necessary to defend the rights of every Canadian in Quebec or across the country. People will appreciate enormously this Charter of Freedoms and Rights that protect the fundamental rights, and I think that many Quebecers find that in a society that is free, we shouldn't legitimize discrimination against anyone. What do you answer to those who are accusing you of compromising your diversity and inclusion values in order not to go against Quebecers? I don't think that any Quebecers think that I'm for this or that I'm not against this Bill 21, but my position is always to defend the rights of every Canadian. And that's why I'm really happy that Quebecers themselves are going against this bill in courts.
Prime Minister, you're starting
Your tour in Vancouver. Is it because it's right next door to your former Justice Minister, now rival, Jody Wilson-Raybould?
In 2015, we launched our election campaign by attending the Pride Parade in Vancouver and launched it right across the country. And you may remember that there were many folks assembled here today and in the press gallery across the city who decried that it was a terrible mistake to not be here in Ottawa for the election launch by the Liberal campaign. We demonstrated that campaigns happen out there across Canada, and launching the campaign in my second home of British Columbia felt right both in 2015 and it feels right right now in 2019. I can't wait to get out to BC this afternoon, but I'm very much looking forward to getting right across the country in the coming weeks. There are a lot of Canadians to talk to about the important choice they're facing about whether we move forward or we go back to the Harper years. I know that Canadians are excited about the opportunities ahead of us, and I am excited to roll up my sleeves and keep working for them every single day.
In 2015, we chose to launch our campaign in Vancouver, despite the fact that many people were saying that it was an error, a mistake not to be in Ottawa for the launch of the campaign. And we've demonstrated that an election campaign happens across the country and not only in Ottawa. That's why I'm so happy to be in Vancouver, my second home, to launch a campaign this afternoon. And in the weeks coming, we will be across the country to have these conversations, important conversations with Canadians on what choice they will make for the years coming. Will they continue to go forth, or will they continue to go back to Harper years?
Your opponents keep attacking you on questions of ethics. How would you respond to their critique that you are inauthentic going into this campaign?
I think Canadians know very well that I am focused on making the right choices for Canadians and moving forward in a way that benefits the middle class, people working hard to join it, that moves forward on reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, that demonstrates the only way to build a strong economy moving forward is to protect the environment at the same time. We are all in for building a better future for Canadians, and that's why we choose Forward. Merci tout le monde.